your girl, Kenya Nicole, and we are here with another episode of On Your Shit podcast. And today we have with us a very special guest, Miss Cara Presley. You guys, I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about Miss Cara. Miss Cara is the career cheerleader and public speaking guru. She's an entrepreneur, a podcast host, influencer, a self defined cultural custodian, and a mother of one son. And she's from Richmond, Virginia. Cara holds in her arsenal of success over 20 years of government experience. This digital business innovator develops relatable content that resonates with the soul and starts discussions in the comments. Prior to the pandemic, Cara experienced her own version of a quarantine due to the government shutdown. During that time, she launched The Pull Up, which is an interview series for local individuals to share their stories in mini sessions jam packed with gems. As a result, she launched her own bite sized podcast called The Successful Podcast, which showcases topics in 15 minutes or less. But guys, there's more. Cara curated a diversified Facebook group by the name of Red Table Talk RVA, which has garnered her over 100,000 supporters and is the biggest Facebook community in support of the topics discussed on the Emmy Award winning Red Table Talk series, starring Jada Pinkett Smith and her family. Now, over time, Cara has been applauded for her unique engagement strategies, and her partnership with the brand has a radio show, which airs in Richmond, Virginia on ESPN 106.1. She also launched a masterclass, Successfully Speaking, the public speaking masterclass for next level greatness, which helps others speak authentically in personal and professional settings. Cara also volunteered with Excel to Excellence, a director of public relations. Now, guys, if you want to find out any more regarding Miss Cara, just visit carapresley.com. And so, welcome to the show. It's been it's been a challenge just trying to do this.
Yeah, but I mean that's
So
expected
I'm
these
glad to
days.
have you here today with us.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited.
So I know I share with the people all of your accolades and all of the many facets in which you embody, all of the hats that you wear. Um, the one thing I wanted to get you to share with us a little bit more is your experience, if possible, from the 20 years of you working with the government. Exactly what field of work was that?
I was a trainer analyst when I worked for the government, and I started in customer service and worked my way up. Yep.
Okay. And so you did that for, you said, 20 years?
Yes.
Now, of course, when the government shutdown took place, me as a business consultant and someone who was helping small business owners, actually those that didn't have contingency plans in place that were trying to pivot. The one thing that I saw on my end of the spectrum was um, those that are like minority certified businesses, those that had governmental contracts in place with our government. A lot of them were able to continue the flow of work that was in place. Mainly those in like logistics and things of that nature. How did the government shutdown end up affecting the department in which you worked in?
Yeah, so when I worked for the government, of course, I worked in training. And the first thing people cut out when there's no money is training any type of uh, non essential sources or resources. Training gets put absolutely on the back burner. So that's how I was affected. When I was working for the government, I traveled the country and taught effective presentation skills where we speak face to face and give you those strategies. And it was more so focused on business, which is why I created my own so we could work on the personal and professional. But while I was working for the government, it's we're not training anymore. We're going to get on Zoom calls. We're going to make a phone call, conference call. We're going to pivot. So we have to cut out these other things. So that's mainly how I was affected, and also because I couldn't go in and do my work, I felt like I still wanted to use my skill set. So that's why I created my own interview series. I had a lot of downtime. So
That's great. And so I know that again, speaking as a business consultant, I held many conversations with small business owners who, if their business, either their business service or their product or whatever it is that they navigated to the consumer, whether it was business to business or to a consumer, if their product was not considered or their service was not considered an essential item, I watched a lot of them really deal with a lot of emotional turmoil from that and not really have, and I'm big on talking to my clients about what's going on with your cash flow. Where are you with your cash flow? Do you have at least 4 months to 6 months of revenue stream that would be able to take care of you on the personal side as well as your business if something was to happen? Like, what do you have that plan in place, that financial plan and that contingency plan in place? And so I watched, I've had conversations with, during that time, I had conversations with a lot of small business owners that found themselves dealing with a little bit of depression and things of that nature. And so I can see how Red Table Talk became essential in that time. And so, how did that end up being the thing that became like, okay, for you?
Red Table Talk opened up a lane of conversation that I wasn't able to tap into anywhere else. Again, having these authentic conversations, honest conversations. I was working to really not lose my mind and use my skill set by just asking people questions via interviews. But the interviews were more for me than they were for them because I was asking a line of questioning uh, and housing the interview in a way that helped everyone. Number one, everyone's attention span was short at the time. We're all focused on this and that, and things run all through our brain. So the interviews were 15 minutes or less. I made a big point. I wanted to be something small and to the point. And the line of questioning was, "Who are you? How did you get started? What difficulty did you face or have you faced, and how did you overcome it?" Because I realized the silver lining in Red Table Talk episodes and in my interviews was that we're all going through something and we have to make it to the other side. So sharing those stories in the middle of me going through something and trying to get to my other side was healing, was therapeutic. And I think it took off the way it did because it was so authentic
Yes,
and honest, and everybody needed it at the same time. Pandemic or not, government shutdown or not,
at
we're
the same
always
time.
going through something. So it was perfect.
Yeah, and during the pandemic, though, I think people really had to come to terms with themselves. There were, for me, I have to be honest and say, life can sometimes be a distraction from a lot of so busy with, achieving goals and obtaining things
Mhm.
that, our level of what we classify as success, to where we're not
Mhm.
at that we can just be still, sit still, and kind of deal with self. And so the pandemic forced me to have to sit still and forced a lot of us to have to sit still. And during the pandemic, I'm not even gonna lie, I watched a few people, um, it's couples. I watched couples go from, some couples became stronger during the pandemic. I watched
No.
some couples because of the pandemic. I watched some businesses thrive, you know, because of the pandemic. I watched people
Mhm.
end up coming up with innovative ideas and items during the pandemic. So it was at different points of the spectrum for so many of us. But I'll never forget, like, one of my very first table talk discussions that I end up looking at Lady Pinkett and her family and thinking at that moment I could feel myself, I could see myself, I can experience myself and understand it. Now I don't feel so alone to hear somebody be so vocal about their own story. Now I don't feel like, this is, why is this happening to me? Because there were so
Right.
many why is this happening to me moments
Yeah.
during
Yeah.
COVID. The people in their jobs, people's houses on, people could not afford their mortgages because they weren't bringing in the necessary income. Unemployment was just all over the place. And so to be able to have a safe space that was beyond that 1 hour that was, that was showed to us on Facebook Watch. I'm sure your community was very, very thankful for that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was a big part of it too. Like, okay, Jada, you brought us an episode on Monday. I gotta live through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Like I'm still living out here. My life goes on. Hers does too. So to your point, it was appreciated to see someone in this prestigious position, right? Acknowledge that they've been going through life and it has been
Yes.
beating them up. I mean, we are losing hair. We're doing X, Y, Z. We are stressed. We are tired, and I need to still keep pushing every day. It's everybody's story. It's just a different list of characters and trials and tribulations, but we're all going through. So, yeah, it's having a resource, like I said,
Hmm.
online, a virtual safe space, not just a in-person safe space, but a place you could scroll. Um, we're always online. We're just online in a way that we've never been in our being as humans. You know what I mean? So these new resources and spaces are key for some people. Like you said, people are spiraling. They are sitting on the edge of the bed at home by themselves and they think that they're alone. And we pick up that phone. So it's been a great experience to have people come to my page and say, let me just scroll past something in here that I know is not drama. It is not somebody fighting. Is just something empowering, something I could actually learn from in this moment. That's not in a school setting. You know what I mean? So that's a great feeling.
Right. So how do, and I know that being being in a position, that position that you were in for as long as you were in that position, and having to do your own pivot, the fact that you were able to pivot anyway because of all the training that you've done for others, that everybody was didn't find themselves in that sort of capacity. But with you, when I was looking over your bio, I'm like, this lady is so phenomenal. Like, I coined you as the plug because, like, she's doing all of this stuff. And so I just know, like, even with you were being mentally and emotional resourceful, but you're also economically resourceful for the community because you have the skill set to empower them to go that next. But also with you being as gifted and as talented and as skilled as you are, there are there are those of us that see someone like you and we fail to remember that you're just as human as we are, and 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 you are the person that is always pouring people. So while in that space, when you were doing so much pouring, who was your tribe to pour back into you on that time?
Mm, that's a great question. Actually, the virtual community was a tribe to come back to because, again, I would go live all the time and tell people how I'm feeling, what's going on. I just cried on live the other day and said, y'all, I'm failing and succeeding at the same time. So online, I did have that safe space because I had created it, which was a blessing when I started going through. But
Mhm.
physically in the real world, thank God for my mom, my parents. My dad gets on my nerves a little bit, but my mom, she always gonna listen and at least be a rock to support. And then my friends, I got like three strong, good girlfriends that we're all doing the same thing. I got some great business friends, business best friends that I've met, and we're all doing the same thing
Mhm.
business wise in that season and can relate to each other. So continuing to share those stories online and offline was super instrumental in just helping me through. And still to this day, you have to have those sources of self care that aren't just something you got to spend money on or go to brunch. I mean, I just need to talk in the car, girl. You know what I mean? So yeah, having those
Exactly.
times is important.
Yeah, we ain't gotta go to brunch.
Right. I
Yeah.
don't have $50 every
And to
weekend. No.
yes, and to your point, I love that you said the virtual space that you had created became a safe space for you as well. A lot I see the comments a lot. People will say, "Well, social media ain't real, and I don't take nothing serious from social media." And I'm like, it's a soul space where you reach people that you normally wouldn't be able to reach if you were just limited to the physical capability. So how is it not real when we're able to get on here and share our real lives? And so for you to be able to transform and build up a community that end up becoming like an online family for you,
Yeah.
although
Yeah.
you had those people in your lives that were supportive. When we have our friends, and again, when people see you as the strong person, sometimes that it's like when you're finally saying something that is bothering you, it could be looked at as like you're not you. I can't believe you going through that. People expect you to just be real
Yeah.
heroic.
Yeah.
Pertaining to the opinions of you, and that can just allow you to flow freely in whatever it is that you're feeling in that moment, and know that it's safe to do that. It's just a beautiful thing within itself. And so if there was anything that you could say to, maybe there's someone out there that's just like you, that has something that they're passionate about, and they are working trying to establish and build up a community of individuals that jump behind the mission and be purposeful for what the purpose that they're wanting to build, what advice would you give to them in getting
Um,
started?
for anyone who's just pushing towards any goal, or you have this product, you have this service, and you're trying to build a community, to your point, the goal is to really be authentic, and really tell these people what you love about the product, the service, what you hate about it, what's difficult about it, what's the challenge about it. And you just have to make sure that, again, you love it, because there's a lot of people out here who are saying they love their life or saying they're doing this thing right, and they are lying, and they are doing the thing to make money, and nothing wrong with that. But even if you are doing hair and you actually want to be a lawyer, talk about the hair journey, talk about where you want to get to. People aren't sharing the parts of the journey that are actually the matter. They're sharing the Rolex they bought, and they're sharing the vacation they went on, but that's not the true journey. You gotta share all the high and some of the lows, and that doesn't mean put your whole life out there. I get a lot of
Yeah.
clients who I help them be consistent in their journey, and they think they have to tell the world everything they're going through. No, just the parts that you've actually healed from, and to do that, you have to stop and say, what am I healing from? What have I healed from? What have I mastered? I can effortlessly share. And a lot of people don't do that. They share the things that they think people want to hear, but people want to hear your story, your journey of how it was. You know what I mean? I tell people all the time, like, yes,
They
I
want to hear
did
your
retire on
story,
a
your journey.
Wednesday
That's
and
right.
I was at Jada Pinkett's house on a Friday. And although it sounds fairy tale-ish, that was after 4 years of meetings and support and posts and garnering a community and building a community to support this thing. And God's timing had it aligned like that, but it was far from an overnight invitation to Jada Pinkett's house. It was far from that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people and I think it's important, like you said, not to just share the glitz and the glam of the journey, but, without being overly exposed and being, using a tad bit of discretion. Let people really understand the process that it took to get there. And I think that's what's missing a lot with in the entrepreneurial realm of things, because it's so much of the shiny object syndrome. It's what I call it, to where I've seen entrepreneurs that they don't really have the funds to invest in their money, but they got red bottoms and they have the designer handbag. But if I say, well, you need
Mhm.
to hire this person to help you fix your personal credit because you're wanting to go after this business loan, however, they're going to want a personal guarantee, and then they don't have the money to pay to get started with someone to help them
Mhm.
clean up some of their credit, or well, I can't go file the license this week. I don't have $100. But online, you look like you're super successful. What are we really doing here? And
Making
so I get
announcements.
that.
Making
The
announcements.
yes, and making them. Go ahead, go ahead. Just just I don't know what that is. I've finally gotten to the space of not trying to figure that out, because for a minute of why are we like this, or where is this coming from? And it took me. I watched what is his name, the creator of Grownish and
Kenya Burris. Kenya Barris.
Kenya Kenya Burris, and I yeah, Kenya Burris, and I watched this series on Netflix, and he there was an episode where he talked about wearing his best, because all of his friends in the industry, they didn't understand the man throwing tennis shoes and why he needed that, and why he had to wear a gold chain, and why he had this lavish car that he had. And so he did like a cultural revelation as to where that habit comes from, because we were only allowed to look our best on Sundays,
Mm.
as our ancestors rather, they would put on this and be drop dead dime gorgeous,
Yep.
and probably would have the priorities like together. And I love the fact that he even tapped on that. But I'm like, it's probably a lot of people that's not even watching this series to really get what he's doing. He was just really trying to show you the culture and the mindset, even as you go after your own success in life. And that was the thing, to get so caught up in the looks and making the look of success be what other people's definition of success is. And even as for you, with you having Red Table Talk, RVA, being able to be a part of such an empowering moment in our history with Jada Pinkett, because I know that they end up canceling the show. But with you doing that, how has that been for you with navigating your journey? Because you'll have people, well, why are you doing you got all this stuff you doing, and you didn't sit down and talk with Jada Pinkett Smith. You should be way further along than what you is, because baby, people just get in that. So how do you handle those of that come with that mindset, not really understanding the journey?
Yeah, girl, I've experienced quite a bit of that, reaching out for certain interviews because I still do my interviews here and there, and people are like, you only got 3,000 followers on Instagram. And I'm like, well, what? Well, excuse me. That doesn't mean I'm any less than, successful as you or who you think I am or where I've been or like, you don't know anything about me. But people, we're so wrapped up in the perceptions and caring what people think and needing to bring 10,000 this and 100,000 that or a million this. It really, you have to be okay in self, and people say that all the time, like self love, but I take it a step further basically by just saying, you have to define your own success and self assessing what's going on. Before I left my job, it took me 4 years to make that decision, and that's because my son was still in school and I knew I needed some insurance for a certain thing and I couldn't leave and hope that I would have had the coverage. I had to sacrifice a little while longer before I could do this thing full time in a way that made sense. But it's really, again, back to defining your own success. I've been suicidal before, and that's another thing. I used to tell people I was okay for a long time and wasn't. So instead of just lying and saying, "Yeah, I'm okay," when people ask how I feel, I started to say I'm successful because it's an answer that every day I can be successful if I define that success for myself. And that could be laying in bed watching Netflix all day, or that could be, going out here doing 6 events, 3 interviews, and, two pull-up sessions with 2 clients. It just depends on what success looks like every day. And as long as I intentionally,
Looks
internally
like
know I'm
it. That's right.
doing what I'm supposed to do to get myself where I want to go, then every day is successful. So it's really about appreciating the up and the downs and the good and the bad days and the the fast or the busy days and the slow days. That's the main thing that got me through. People are gonna say what people are gonna peep. So you just take it as it comes and just
They
know that
the people
you're
are
doing
definitely going to
what you
people.
gotta do. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, we just doing the
With,
work every day.
yeah,
That's it. That's all
people
it's
are
really
definitely
about.
gonna the thing about, and I love the self care and taking care of yourself, because May is actually Mental Health Awareness Month. So for entrepreneurs or those that may be out there that may feel a little burned out right now, what advice would you give them? Because burnout to me is you haven't been taking care of your mental health. You're not prioritizing yourself. I wasn't building the day myself to be burned out. When I first began I feel guilt if I didn't do 100,000 things because I'm using the wrong measuring tool online to measure, like you said, what was looking like success for me in the beginning. By year 3, if I didn't want to do anything for my business Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and all I wanted to do was love on myself, lay in my bed, watch some TV, sleep, not answer my phone for people, disconnect from the world completely, and journal in my journal, I'm real comfortable in being able to do that and not thinking that I need to hurry it up and do what I need to do because they say your business not successful till you can post a 1,000 clients. They say it's not successful until you can show them, like, to finally just come to terms with, no, it's okay that I take care of me. It's okay that I don't do anything today. It's okay that I'm doing what I'm needing to do for myself. So for those that may be out there that's experiencing burnout, what advice would you give them?
Man, for anybody who's experiencing burnout, I encourage you to go to my website, carapresley.com. And I have this thing on my resource list called a done list. I have a list of resources people can download. They're free resources, list of affirmations, list of things to do for self care. But the done list is my favorite list because we all have a to-do list. So many things to do, but what have you done? And it's literally just a list of things, and the intention is to not look at the list like, oh, look at these things I need to do for myself, but mainly things that you can quickly check off. These are things you should be able to quickly do for yourself to bring yourself back to who you are, put yourself back in a positive space, and not have you spiral, for lack of another term, when you really thinking about the negative. You can go from a list of 1 to 1,000 quick when it comes to everything that's going wrong, but rarely do we look at the things that are going right, and rarely do we look at things we can quickly do for
Mhm.
ourselves. So we got to put ourselves back on our to-do list. So get you a done list. So yeah, that's what I would suggest because it doesn't look one way. I could say
I
take a
love
deep
that.
breath. Everybody doesn't need to take a deep breath.
I
So
love that, a done list.
yeah, a done list. Something different.
And so for the person, yeah, that's very different, a done list. And prioritizing, like you said, doing the small things, because all the small things still equate to a win. The small things still equate to a win.
Every
Um,
time.
my next question I have for you is, what because we all get to a space of wanting to throw in the towel, and it seems like as soon as you arrive at that space, it's actually a moment of breakthrough. So the person that may have been, perhaps, like I said, earlier, trying to build a community around it, and maybe they're not getting the engagement that they were looking to get from that passion project. Maybe they, is they're just they've experienced, not the best of the highs for what they may feel that they've invested a lot of emotion into, and they're at that space where they're really wanting to just quit on their passion project that their mate is really bigger than them. They're creating this and it's for the community. What advice do you have for that person that's at that space where they're ready to throw in the towel?
Mm. A person is at a space where they're ready to just quit, give it up. I mean, they have already invested more than enough. If you're listening to this and you feel like I am just over it, I want to give up on this passion project, I am done with this, I think I've done enough, I encourage you to just step away for a moment and go do something else. I mean, even if it's just for the day. In entrepreneurship, I have to remind myself often, is it a bad moment or a bad life? And most of the time, even if I have
Come on
invested a
now.
significant amount of money or time or energy into something, that doesn't mean uh, that I have to stop it all because it's just not going my way. Sometimes I need to step away, go do something fun, go spend some time with my girls, my tribe, go online and scroll past some things positive, or just sit and allow some things to wash out as they need to. It doesn't mean I have to give it up. At the same time, though, I tell this story often. Before I became this public speaker, this consultant with this Facebook group, I was a stand up comedian. I made candles, I made journals, I did all the things that I enjoyed. And I tried them, and they weren't successful. Not to the level of success that I knew I could sustain it. With the candles, I was spending more money on products. I was buying a candle than having customers. So I had to let that go. It's okay if an answered prayer has to change. I say that often because you don't have to, you know,
Listen, and I
you don't
think
have to
some people,
lose your
I
value
think
in what you
sometimes
tried. It's just about knowing when to pivot if you need to. Sometimes it's just not working. That's okay.
it,
But take a moment.
because and it's nothing wrong with having to cancel a project. Um, I had a client that paid a lot of money. I did a commercial and I did this and I said, well, it's not ready. So you got to pull the plug. You know, we don't want to pull the plug on something sometimes. And I'm glad that you said that. That is it a bad day or whatever it is that they may be going through? Do you need to take a moment and pull back, or is the real business as a business? I always see it as an incremental component
Yes.
that was necessary.
Come back.
Go
You're
back
not gonna
to the
lose those
drawing board.
skills.
And
It's just not right now.
mhm,
It's gonna come back.
not at all. Yeah, that's it. Sometimes it's not. It ain't. That is not never. It's just not right now. That's it right there. Um, the fact that Car, you like I said, you wear a lot of hats. How are you able to manage all of what it is that you do? How do you manage all of that?
You know, if I get that often, people are like, "Girl, you do all the things. What is it?" But I mean, it kind of comes easy. You hate to say that, like all the years of multitasking at the government and dealing with other duties as assigned often, you learn to toggle. I also make time for rest in this season, so I have no problem saying no. As many things as I do say no to some things. I have no problem resting, and I have no problem saying I don't have capacity, even if I've committed to it before. And then rarely do I do that because I'm very intentional when I accept certain projects now. But if it comes to a space I can't do it, I can't do it. If I can't show up and be my best self, then I'm not going to do it. There are a few exceptions, maybe my mom, maybe my parents overall, but rarely am I overextending myself anymore in the season if I just don't have capacity. So that's really the key to it. I'm doing everything I'm blessed to do. So
Right. And to be able to do what you love and be paid for it, I call it, that's everything to me. That's like that's God's
yeah.
promise, to be able to do what you love and be paid for it. But I know that you deal with this because I deal with this as a business consultant. When you have um, a client to help them with basically the blueprint to help establish the business model, what it is that they're getting ready to execute. How do you help that client understand, okay, you're trying to do four different things, and it doesn't make sense for us to try to spend all this energy and effort in these four different things when the priority is something that needs to bring you revenue. And then now that we once we can get your revenue in and revenue build up, then we can do some of the things that won't really constitute money, but it'll have them purposeful. How do you clients that because I found that to be challenging when
Mm,
that when you're just trying to kill my dream, and I'm like, well, no, I'm just telling you that it doesn't make sense to try to put all four of these fire irons
right.
in the fire. We need to do what's best so that we can use the build up from this one to implement into this one. How do you navigate that with your people, or is there anything they can go to your website that may be a resource to help someone in that space?
No, because some of the services I have, they focus directly on that. So, for example, my business brainstorming sessions, I brainstorm and strategize with clients to determine what their priority is and how we can successfully execute. But if they're overextending themselves, I might tell them they're not a client fit. I have no problem telling them that because you have to know what you want to even come over here and allow me to
That's
help
right.
you execute it. I can't make up the decision for you, and you have to love it. Because if I tell you that you're launching a class and you need to go ahead and write up your welcome email, the welcome instructions, develop the welcome packet, identify your objectives, and outline. If I'm telling you all these steps you need to take, if you don't love it, it's gonna be a task. And then you're gonna hate me, and then you're gonna hate doing it, and then you're not gonna do it,
Hmm.
and then you have to pay me double because we've used all our meetings trying to help you plan something that you can't fluidly execute because you were trying to make the money instead of doing what you love to make the money. You're doing a task. It doesn't come fluidly like that. So they have to be in it first. They have to understand what their purpose is. They have to be using some God-given gifts and or skill sets and trainings because you can't make your way up through this. Does that make sense? So they have to love it first. And I really don't have a problem telling the client that they're not a fit.
Hmm.
I'll tell them in a minute. You're not ready
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. And it's okay to look. It's okay if you're not ready, and we're gonna go ahead and provide a refund. Um,
You're not even
so
that's why I do a free consultation because I want to tell you right there. You're not right. Because a lot of people have made up dates in their heads as well. That's another thing. I had a client before, they were like, they got like 3,000 followers on Instagram. I want to build up to 10,000 in the next 6 months. Okay, we need some robust engagement strategies. Well, I don't like going live. Well, it might not work for you. So we might need to either refigure the goal or come up with some other engagement strategies that make sense because you don't even want to go live and talk to the people. So why would they follow you? You want the numbers, or you want to make it? Are you in here to impact and influence? So they have to be clear on their mission.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right. And it needs to be, and when the intention is purposeful, it's gonna produce because the intention behind it, there's a pureness behind the intention. And I try to get the clients to understand that, and that a lot of them need to understand also that some people are not just purchasing your product, they're more invested in you, especially if you are
yes,
the person that, like, you know I've dealt with experiences where, okay, you want to be the face of your brand, so you're going to have to be engaging because you want to be the face of your brand. You can't be the face and then hide your
or hire
face. That
somebody.
don't work. Well, I don't, yeah, I don't want to go live, but you in all the pictures with all the clothes and all the product and all the makeup, and this ain't gonna work. We're gonna have to
You
get
want a
you a
photo
different
shoot. You didn't want to be.
spokesperson because you can be the face and you don't want to talk.
Absolutely.
So just the challenges that come with that alone is all of this dedication, all of this drive, and all of this as a businesswoman, how does one find a balance
Mm.
for the other areas of life that are as fulfilling, like love and just all of this other stuff? How does
Oh.
one find balance?
I get this question often, and the main thing I'll tell you is that in order to find balance, you have to not look for 100% in all buckets. That's just people want 100% in every single bucket, and that's just not how it works. So you really have to identify your balance daily. It goes back to saying that every day is successful, whether that's Netflix or whether that's 5 meetings, 2 interviews. Who needs me today? What's my priority today? When my son was in school Monday through Friday, the priority was school and ensuring my phone was on for that. And just you have to change your focus, depending on who depends on you in the moment. I'm blessed at this point. I mainly get to focus on me. Thank you for the grown children, but I still have to be aware and have 20% available for how he needs me and how the family and the household needs to operate, or what do my parents need right now? Do they need me to? Do I need to pivot and take somebody to a doctor's office appointment this week? So there are other things, but it's really about identifying who needs me today, and then ensuring that when you are quote unquote overextending yourself or working a full-time job, being a dualpreneur and trying to stay up late to still do some business things at night, ensuring that when you over pour, it's still coming from an overflow. So continuing to fill yourself back up and speak good things into yourself, and learning as often as you can so that you can stay on top of your business. Those are the ways to really attain balance. And again, if you need rest, take the rest. Have the rest. Take the day off. Say no to the meeting, even though it may
Mhm.
turn into a client. Reschedule, but make sure your capacity is accurate at all times. That's the best way. And be okay with saying no, because that's the thing. I think we think, well, I gotta make money and I gotta do the thing, but if you can't do it well, then why do it at all? So you just gotta make sure you're
Why
paying
do it at
attention
all?
paying attention to who you are and what you can do at all times. That's probably the best way to achieve balance.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing that you said about paying attention to who you are and what you do, it makes me think about. Um, I know a lot of coaches have experienced this. And I want to ask this question to you as someone who has been very vocal and action oriented when it comes to your healing, and you're making sure that you are your best mental self when you are showing up and
Hmm.
overcoming different obstacles and challenges. And the next thing is not really an obstacle; it's an opportunity for me.
Hmm.
How do you navigate the the arena of being career coach when you may experience a client who you recognize as you begin to work with them, because sometimes we get to see the client on the surface, and then once we start digging through the details with the client, and you dig through the details with the client, and to you come to an understanding that you have now taken on a project with the client who's trying to build amidst their own brokenness. And you can identify that until they address issues over here, everything else is going to continue to be an issue. How have you been able to navigate that if that sort of situation is laid before you?
Yeah. So if I have experienced people who just aren't ready, and not because they're not clear on their passion, but to your point, they may still be hurt by a ex-boyfriend, but here you trying to sell relationship advice. I don't know if that's gonna work. I have to be honest is the main thing. And some people are lying to their clients because it's a consistent invoice. So I have no problem again being honest and telling people how I feel or how it's coming across. I kind of pride myself on being that type
Mhm.
of honest, because some people feel like, well, it's like a step above, like, oh, but you're the business. counselor, consultant, you should be able to help them or overlook what they could be going through. But I can't, because it's a personal and professional balance you have to have. I only work with people who are the same in both spaces. I have been the person to mask before, or
You cannot.
the person who is happy at work and then you angry at home. You have to be the same person in personal and professional settings, and or understand why you change. I understand the whole survival. I worked for the government with locks in 2012.
Exactly.
During the Obama administration. I understand exactly what it is to try to present yourself in a certain
Mhm.
way because of conditioning in the workplace, corporate, what have you. But there's a difference in speaking in a way so your coworkers can understand you and still authentically being yourself. There's a difference, and
Being
you have to
yourself,
be able
yeah.
to
With the
understand.
code switching.
Yes, yes, with the code switching, there's a you have to first identify it, and if you can't be honest enough to say, well, yeah, I do that, or acknowledge and identify why do I do that, you may not be ready to move forward in your business because this really has to be your life's work. You betting on yourself for this, and that was my position
It
when I
has
left this 20-year position. I wasn't able to be my full self in the workplace, and that's how everyone should strive to live. It's not an overnight thing, but strive to be that.
and and it's definitely not overnight. Um, I'm gonna share with you. I had a few years ago. There's several years ago. I realized that okay, I do what I do, and I do what I do, and I love what I do, and I know that God is good. And getting the education is one thing, but I felt that God groomed me through church, literally, where me being with the youth and me also in that space, being a hairdresser, like you were saying, all those different roles that you, those different jobs and skills and talents that you had.
Mhm.
I understood that me as a hairdresser was helping me on the consulting side of being a great communicator, because as a hairdresser you pay attention to detail. Do you want your hair to be, when I cut, they say, well, I want my hair cut to my ear, do you want it at the top of your ear or under your earlobe? Like, what do
Mhm.
you mean when you say, so you have to pay attention to detail? And with me being in church, it was recognized that God gave me a gift to see the gift in others, and that it was my ability to pour into the gift. But also in the midst of that, learning when the person has not poured enough spiritually, mentally, emotionally, to come forth and carry out the gift. And so
Right.
it didn't dawn on me until many years later. And I was working with someone with the production that they were doing, and we were doing her stage play. And I didn't understand why it was a lot of, uh, it felt like spiritual tussle with what was going on with her.
Mm.
And so I said, I want to go to lunch. Let's go to lunch. I want to kind of sit down. Let's decompress everything that we're getting ready to do,
Right.
because she had rented out a theater and was trying to sell all these tickets and stuff. And so we're sitting and we're talking. And she was like, I can't have this play fail. I can't have it fail. And I said, well, we're not worrying about it failing. And she said, because I want to show my pastor that I could do what it is that I need to do. What are you talking about? And she began to tell me that she was doing productions at her church, and they took the position from her, and now she's doing her own thing.
Right.
And she had
So
walked
she
away
got
from
something to
encouragement,
prove.
doing her own thing. Yes, and I said, you're operating in the essence of thinking that you have something to prove. I said, and that's what this warfare is with me and
Mhm.
you. I said, we can't get to where we're trying to go until you forgive what you feel that they did to you, because it's getting in the way of what we're doing. It's actually in a way, major commercial. You got an amazing videographer doing drone shots. You've invested all of this money, but still going on in it because it's something that you're projecting
Yep.
that has nothing to do with me and who you are. And until that is addressed, this ain't gonna even do what it needs to do. And I think sometimes with being a coach and you being like a career coach, I don't think a lot of, I'm not going to say a lot of entrepreneurs, but there are those that may not see that as your career coach, I'm seeing the wholeness of you because I've been groomed for this. Like God has groomed and graced me to be able to see every element of this journey because I endured my own cross. So I see what it is. And instead of seeing and hearing you out, I have my own chargebacks with people who are like, I didn't get what I paid for. And I'm like, no, you got everything that you paid for. Your expectation of me was unrealistic. And we figured that out in the journey. So how do you and I guess in sharing this, my next thing I want you to share is something that can help other career coaches or big consultants maybe out there just like you that's dealing with that where um they give and try to prepare and get their clients to this place of excellence, but then they still feel like they're failing them because you know the fact that I was willing to say that to her, there are coaches that won't say that to the person, or maybe they have growingly inclined to be able to see that aspect of that person. So for those that may be out there, business coaches, business consultants that are in this industry, what is which?
Oh, you broke up on that last part. But if I heard you correctly, you want me to share what, if I'm assuming what you want me to share what keeps people going when it comes to the people who are expecting more. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, like for the business consultant that may be in that space of not at that space to where they can be as trained. They might be bold with their clients that may be in this space where you're building something you're not healed. Like you said, you can identify when they're not ready.
Yeah.
So advice to them on being able to, like you said, not just do stuff for the money, but be able to walk away from that and walk away with your dignity, knowing that down. It wasn't time for me to do this with this particular client. How do you advise those consultants that might be finding it challenging to do?
Okay. For the consultants, for sure, listen, you just have to know who you are and what you can do. So, and I mean, I heard you say career coach, but I really I make it a point to say I'm not a coach because you can't coach people into actually making the basket, right? They have to want to practice enough and build up their endurance and do what's necessary to ensure the basket is made every time. So that's why I say cheerleader because I am here to encourage you and tell you I'm here to respond authentically. Did I love it? Did I like it? Did it make me smile? Whatever it is, your service, your promotion, what have you. Like, what's the true impact point? I loved when you did ABC. I want to have those true impact points. Generally the cheerleaders start to cheer when they see something they love, when you made that 2 points, or they know you're at the foul line, right? They know something is coming up. I'm here to encourage you because we tend to talk ourselves out of things. So just like you're consulting them, you're still also a potential client. Like a lot of the people who I work with, I've had real connections with first. And then we saw value in each other. And then the relationship might have moved forward based on that. But it's the impact point first. So I definitely encourage you to identify your impact point. Some people tend to refer to it as like your niche market, right? But it's also like your niche touch point. Like If it's family, family is a thing. Or I love people
Hmm.
who are family centered. You want to help clients who are family centered. When you have that impact point, you can help them move further along because you too are relatable to what's further along, or you're aware. So again, it doesn't have to be exactly who you are, but the reality is we are all potential clients. I